preliminary matters are taken care of. We're all set to begin testimony. So Attorney Lassay, the state may call its first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Aaron Kalinsky to the stand.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Aaron Kalinsky, K-U-L-I-N-S-K-I.
Thank you, Mr. Kalinsky. If you just make yourself comfortable, and please move the microphone to where you think it's right, both microphones. Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm going to ask, how old are you?
36?
Are you from this area?
Yes.
Did you go to school in this area?
Yes, I did.
What schools did you attend?
Baird School, McCullough School, Edison, and Preble.
Okay. Did you graduate from Preble?
That I did.
What year was that?
2000?
So you're how old right now?
36.
And do you know a Doug Detrie?
Yes, I do.
Are you employed at this time?
I am employed.
What type of work do you do?
I'm a project engineer.
And how long have you held that position?
About a year at my current employer.
Did you have that same type of work before that?
Yes, I did.
How long did you hold that job?
2.5 years.
Okay. So is that pretty much the field you've been working in?
Yeah, engineering.
Do you have any schooling after high school?
Yes, I went to college, UW Platteville,
Okay. And what degree did you get?
mechanical engineering.
And what year did you graduate from that?
2008.
So aside from Platteville, you've pretty much always lived in this area?
I moved away to central Wisconsin, Iola, Wisconsin,
Okay.
with my family.
Where they had the car shows?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
And so when did you return to this area?
I returned to this area in 2015. I moved from Iola to Wausau for a job, worked there for 3 years, and moved to Green Bay.
Okay. Are you married at this time?
No, I'm not.
Now, you indicated you know Doug Detrie. When did you meet him?
I met him, I'd like to say, 6th grade.
Were you friends back in grade school?
Yes.
And did you go to the same high school?
Yes, we did.
Were you in the same class?
We were in the same class.
Okay, so you guys graduated the same year?
Yep.
Were you friends throughout high school?
Yes, we were.
Once you returned to this area, did you get in touch? Did you do things with Doug Detrie from time to time?
Yep. Yes.
When you were living out of the area, did you stay in contact with Mr. Detrie?
Not as much. When I'd come to town to visit, I would see him.
Did you stay in touch with him? Did you do things with him in 2016?
Yes.
And you'd been back in town for roughly how long, living here at that point in time?
A little under a year.
Okay. And did you do things socially with Mr. Detrie during that time period?
Yes.
And were you ever in the company of Nicole Vanderheiden?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever go to their home?
Yes, I did.
Approximately how many times?
I would say between 5 and 10 times, or somewhere in there. Quite a few.
Were there times you went out socially with both of them?
Yes.
Approximately how many times?
About the same, 5 to 10 times, somewhere in there.
Did you see them interact on those occasions?
Yes, I did.
How would you describe what you viewed as far as their interaction?
I thought they were a normal couple, happy and smiling, and nothing ever tripped me where I had to think about their relationship or anything. So.
While you were with them on those occasions, did you ever see them arguing?
No, I never saw them arguing.
And on those social outings, would you go out to dinner? What kind of outings were they?
Packer games, out of bars, otherwise I think we did Frisbee golfing a few times.
Oh, where did you do that?
Stuff. What's that?
Where did you do the Frisbee golf?
In Green Bay here, Triangle Hill.
Okay. And did you call her Nikki?
Yes, I did.
What, she joined you on those occasions as well?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Thank you. Did you ever see their son Dylan?
Yes, I did.
And would that have been in the home, or was that when you were out and about?
A couple times with both.
I'm going to ask you to recall a Friday, May 20th of 2016. Did you have plans to meet up with Doug Detrie and Nikki on that occasion?
It was kind of on the fence that he was going to join us that night, but I'd say about a half hour to an hour before I went out, he let me know that he wasn't going to make it.
And with respect to Doug Detrie, how would you describe him with respect to your relationship?
I thought he was a good guy, and he never...
Well, I guess I meant friend, acquaintance.
Oh, yeah, he was a good friend.
So where was it that you might meet up on that date, May 20th of 2016?
It would be at the watering hole.
Okay. And that's where?
Howard, Wisconsin.
Okay. Had you been to that before?
That
Watering hole?
Yes, I have.
And is it a bar and restaurant, just a bar?
It's a, I don't know if they have a restaurant or not, but it's a bar with like a volleyball court.
Okay. And were you planning to meet up with other individuals as well?
Yes.
About what time were you going over there?
A little after 7.
Okay. Did you meet people beforehand?
Yes, I did.
Where did you meet up?
Crystal Kane picked me and Darcy Lipsky up at our house, and we went to Angela Delfoss's.
I mean, you went where?
Angela Delfoss's?
Now, you mentioned Darcy. Were you living with someone at this point in time?
Yes, that was Darcy.
And what was her full name?
Darcy Lipsky?
Okay. And she was with you when you got picked up to go over to Angela's?
Correct.
And who was driving at this point?
Crystal Kane?
And in what town or city does Angela live?
I don't know if that's Green Bay or Bellevue. It's on the edge of it.
Okay. And did you go into Angela's?
No, we went to her backyard.
Okay. Who was there?
Her husband and her daughter?
Do you know their names?
Yes, I do.
And what are they?
Jeremy Delfoss and Ariana?
Okay. Were they going to go out with you also on this evening?
No,
Was Angela?
Angela was.
So your group went over to Angela's and you're in the backyard area.
Correct.
Was the weather pretty nice?
It was.
Did you stay very long there?
Let's see, we stayed about an hour.
Did any other persons join you there?
Yes, Courtney.
Who that- I'm sorry.
Courtney Gerlkowski, another
Okay.
gentleman.
And, I'm sorry, who?
And another gentleman, Mike Gillespie.
Okay. Do you know who was driving between those people?
Mike was.
So everyone's at Angela's. Was the idea that then some of you would then go on to the watering hole?
Correct.
How did you proceed from there?
Greg Matthew, he also came to Angela's a little bit before we left, kind of got our game plan, and then the girls all drove with Mike, and I drove with Greg.
Okay. Do you know about what time you left Angela's?
7:15.
So 7:15 p.m.
7:15 p.m.
Okay. And did you go directly to the watering hole?
Yes, we did.
So there's 2 vehicles proceeding over there?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Sorry. Yes, that.
Thank you. Do you know about what time you got to the watering hole?
7:30-ish.
What time was the concert supposed to start, if you recall?
I believe the concert, first band was to go on at 8.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, as you were at Angela's, was Doug Detrie there? When you were at Angela's?
No, Doug wasn't at Angela's.
And was Nikki there?
No, Nikki wasn't either.
Did you have an understanding if you were going to see them that night while you're at Angela's?
Yeah, I did have that knowledge.
So when you arrived at the watering hole, was Doug there at that point in time?
He wasn't there yet.
Okay. Do you remember about what time he arrived?
I would say a little before 8.
Was anyone with him?
Nikki.
And that was your understanding they'd both be coming to the meet up with you?
Correct.
So the concert gets underway. Are you in the company of Doug and Nikki for some of the night?
Yes.
Are there a lot of people there?
In general, yes.
What was the mood as it appeared between your group? How are things going?
Very upbeat. We were all excited.
As you observed the interaction on that evening between Doug and Nikki, how did they appear to be getting along?
Happy, ready to watch a concert.
As the concert began, did that appearance change any between those two?
Not at all.
Did you stay to the end of the concert?
Yes, I did.
And I know you weren't constantly watching Nikki and Doug, but were they in your general area also?
Yes.
And again, was there any point in time that you observed them arguing?
No.
Ever see them fighting while you're at the watering hole?
No, I never saw them fight.
Once the concert ended, about what time was that?
Say, band got off a little after 11 p.m.
Did you have plans for something you were going to do after that?
We didn't have set plans. We knew we were going to do something, just didn't know what.
Do you recall, were you drinking while you're at the watering hole?
Yes.
Were other persons drinking alcohol?
Yes.
While you're at the watering hole, at any point in time, did Nikki appear to be upset?
I don't know if upset, I'd say concerned.
While at the watering hole?
Oh, not at the water, sorry, excuse me.
Sure.
I jumped ahead of myself. No, she wasn't, she was fine at the watering hole.
So when you decided you were going to head out, how were you going to move on? Who's going to drive?
Another friend, Jessie Barakashan, she had a family van that was able to fit all of us.
And by all of us, whom do you mean?
Angela, Courtney, Nikki, Darcy, Crystal.
Now, why would Nikki come with you? Where was Doug?
Doug, he found somebody he was talking to with Craig at the bar, and they just stayed there, and we wanted to move on, and we didn't want to leave Nikki alone, so
Could you see Doug when you were leaving?
no.
Did you know where he was?
I knew he was in the building. I just didn't, search it for him.
So when you say he was with Greg talking to someone, you didn't see that, did you?
No, I didn't.
Did you go looking for Doug?
I glanced around the venue, didn't see him, moved on.
So had you just seen him talking with someone with Greg earlier, or is that something that you thought you heard later?
Between the bands, there was like a smoking section, and I saw them talking with a girl from our class.
And did you know that girl also?
Yes, I did.
And Greg was also present?
He was.
And they were just talking?
Yes.
About how long after that did you leave?
After I couldn't find Doug?
Right. Well, no, once you saw Greg and the girl and Doug talking, like, about what time of night was that?
I would say that would be about little before 9, or little before 10-ish, because the second band came on at 10.
Okay. But again, you're saying while you're at the watering hole, you never observed Nikki become upset.
No, I didn't.
So you indicated that at some point your group decides to move on, and whose idea was that Nikki would come with you? Your group.
Probably mine. I think I suggested to her that she just come with us, and Doug and Greg will meet us later.
Now, could you see Greg at this point in time?
No.
When you're trying to, I'm sorry, when you're trying to leave, you don't know where Greg or Doug is that correct?
That is correct.
And did anyone in your group know where they were at that point?
No,
So at this point, you all get into the van, including Nikki?
including Nikki, yes.
Could you tell me again who all that would be then?
The driver, Jessie Barakashan, Crystal Kane, Angela, Courtney, Darcy, and Nikki.
What happened to Mike Gillespie?
I believe he went home after the concert ended.
Okay, he didn't go with you.
No, he didn't.
Had your group all decided where you're going to go from the watering hole?
Yes.
Where was that?
The sardine can?
Do you know about what time you arrived at the sardine can?
It's somewhere around, I'd say 11:30 or so.
Did you make any observations of Nikki with respect to if she was possibly intoxicated at the time you were leaving the watering hole?
No.
Okay. Were all of you drinking at this point in time?
I can't recall the driver drinking, but everybody else was.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you arrived at the sardine can about what time?
11:30.
Did you stay there for a while?
A little under an hour, I believe, was the time.
Did you drink at the sardine can?
Yes, I did.
Did you observe if Nikki was drinking at the sardine can?
Yes.
Could you see what she was doing while she was there?
She was interacting with the bartender, some other guy at the bar.
Was there music at this location?
Yes, there was a live band.
Was anyone dancing?
Yeah, after we were outside after we left the outside bar area, we went inside to where the girls danced, and I kind of watched their purses.
Okay. So was Nikki one of the girls dancing?
Yes.
Did she appear upset at that point in time?
No, she didn't appear upset.
Did she seem to be getting more intoxicated, though? Or you said, excuse me, I withdraw the question. At some point in time, did she seem to be intoxicated?
I wouldn't say intoxicated, but I would say she was feeling the effects.
And this was while you're at the sardine can?
Correct.
And I think you indicated earlier, at some point, on a scale of 10, where would you put Nikki's level of intoxication as an approximation?
6-ish, somewhere around there.
Was she dancing a lot or just one or two songs?
Yes, she was dancing quite a bit.
At some point in time, did you or anyone in your group decide it was time to move on?
Yeah, I think the girls wanted to move on, get closer to our home.
Okay. Now, were you still expecting Doug to show up?
Yes.
And did you guys try to reach out and make contact with Doug while you were there?
Yes, both Doug and Greg.
Did you see Nikki try to call him?
Yeah.
Was she successful?
No.
What happened?
I believe she was texting him and calling. It wasn't very high frequency, but I remember kind of touching base with her, and she said he wasn't answering.
So as far as you know, they were not communicating to each other based on what you observed?
Correct.
What happened then?
We were sitting out back, and the girls, we wanted to leave, so I told Angela to give Doug a call.
Had an Uber already been called at this point?
Uber, I believe so, yes.
So you guys are really getting ready to leave. The ride's almost on the way.
Correct.
You asked Angela to make a phone call then?
Yes, I did.
Did she do so?
She did.
Could you tell if that was successful?
It was successful.
Okay. Were you there when that happened?
Yes.
Was there any reaction from Nikki when she saw that Angela was able to contact Doug?
Definitely.
What happened?
She just was, wondering why. Or I could tell she was just baffled as to why he answered Angela's phone call and not hers.
Did she seem upset at this point?
Yes, she did.
Is this the first time during your whole evening together with Nikki that she appeared upset?
That is.
And again, Angela's making the phone call to Doug. Is that correct?
Angela made the phone call to Doug, yep.
Once Doug picked up, is Nikki on the phone talking to Doug that you can see?
No, Angela continues to talk to him.
So Angela is the only one who talks to Doug at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What happened then?
Well, Angela said a few lines to Doug,
Okay.
and
What happened with Nikki?
as soon as Angela hung up, Nikki, basically, decided that, she didn't want any of it, and she just made a a rash decision and decided to run off.
Didn't want to have any of it? Is what you
Yeah,
said?
she just wanted to, seemed like she just wanted to disconnect and take control of her own night and make sure she got home by herself, or
So what did she do?
she walked out of the sardine can, the outside bar, onto the street.
And what street would that be?
I believe that's Howard.
Is that the street where the school district building is, if you know?
Yeah, I believe that's either across the street from, on Howard, the sardine can, or
Is
somewhere
there,
in there.
if you know, is there a drive-through for what was the M&I Bank or BMO Harris in that area?
Correct.
So it's that street?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
That is a yes.
Did you see what direction she went on this street?
She went, I'm not good with my directions, but she went away from the river.
Okay. And I'm like the last person to do that, but I think that would be, she was walking west then?
Correct, that would be west, yes.
What did you do?
I didn't think she was gonna keep walking, and then I just decided to go after her and see if I could corral her back.
Did you walk after, how did you approach?
Well, I walked and I saw her, she looked over her shoulder and saw I was coming after her, so she full out sprinted. So I full out sprinted.
And were you able to catch up with her?
Yeah, I caught up to her about another half block up Howard.
You're still on Howard at this point?
Correct.
Now, up until this point in time, have you had any disagreements with Nikki?
Never.
What happened when you caught up with her?
I could tell she was crying. I was like, it's okay. You know, don't worry about what other people are saying or what just happened. Let's just get you back home to your child.
Now you say, did you say don't worry about what other people are saying?
Yeah, well, because when Angela was hung up with Doug, she called him a loser. And I don't know if that was the tipping point for Nikki or not, but
Okay.
I'm
And
just
that-
trying to console her.
Okay, and those are Angela's words at that point?
Those are Angela's words.
And did you actually say to her, let's get you home to your child?
Yes.
Did she agree to come with you?
No, she did not.
What was her reaction?
She was totally opposite. She didn't want anything to do with it.
What did she do?
I got in front of her to try to, console her a little bit, and she just became combative and kind of pushing me away, and then I continued a little longer, but then she kind of did like this dead weight thing and fell to the ground, was continuing to cry and kind of hitting me in my legs and stuff.
She was striking at you?
She was striking at me, screaming at the top of her lungs.
What was she screaming?
Get away, something to that effect, and just screaming in general.
What was your reaction to that?
I knew there was people across the street at a bonfire, and I just looked over there and I just saw all faces looking at me, so I just backed off and helped her up, and she kept on going up Howard.
She kept going west on Howard?
Yeah, until she got to Maple Street.
What did she do then, if you could see?
She crossed Howard and went onto the sidewalk on Maple Street and continued down Maple Street,
Which direction?
south.
Could you see if she was doing anything at this point in time while she was walking?
She was on her phone.
Could you hear her?
No, I couldn't hear her.
While she kept walking, did you yell anything at her?
Yes, I did.
What did you yell?
I just yelled, we could get you home faster to your child and what you're doing, and I yelled, you're a babe in the woods.
Did she turn around and respond to that?
No, she didn't.
Did she answer you in any way?
Nope.
What did you do then?
I could hear the girls yelling that our ride is here. So I'm looking at Nikki and hearing the girls, and I retreat back.
The last time you saw her then, where was she?
She was walking down Maple.
And you could see that it appeared her phone was working at that point because she was using it?
Yes.
Did you have an Uber pick you up?
Crystal Kane scheduled an Uber, yeah. We had,
Where did that arrive? What street did it pull up on?
that was Howard, right on the, it would be on Howard Street, but on the corner of Broadway and Howard.
Was Nikki still in view when you got in the Uber?
No.
Was everybody able to fit in the Uber, or who all went?
Yes, we all, Courtney Grolkowski and Jesse Barakashan weren't with us. It was Darcy, Angela, Crystal, and I.
Now, while you were at the sardine can, was there a point in time that Doug called you?
Not that I recall.
I'm gonna have to point that out. Was there a point in time that it appeared he used Greg's phone to Darcy's phone to get in touch with you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry then, I didn't state that very well. You
Yeah,
actually
my
talked.
phone had died, so yeah, he couldn't get a hold of me.
I'm sorry, whose phone died?
My phone died, so that would have been the reason he went through Darcy's phone.
Okay. And did you ask him anything while you were on the phone with him?
Yeah, I asked him where he was.
And did he indicate what his plans were?
He said they were on their way.
Was that pretty much the extent of the conversation?
Yes.
Is the first time he talks to him. Did you contact Doug later and let him know what you knew of where Nikki was?
I don't recall contacting Doug.
Okay. When's the next time you talked to Doug?
It would have been in the afternoon on Saturday. I don't believe it was voice to voice. I think it was text.
Okay. When you texted him, did you indicate to him what had taken place the early morning hours before?
Yes, I did.
What was his reaction at that point in time?
He was, I could tell he was really concerned and that she wasn't home yet and something wasn't right.
And did you go into detail of how she walked off and the scene that took place on Howard?
Not into detail, but
But that she had walked off from you?
yep, I pretty much paraphrased it for him.
At some point, did he indicate that he was going to file a missing person report?
Not at that time. I don't think he said that.
Maybe later?
Yeah.
While you were with Doug on May 20th, at any point in time, did he appear angry with Nikki?
No, he didn't.
And you indicated the next day he just seemed to be really concerned?
Yeah.
Nothing further, thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Klinsky, how well did you know Nikki?
I knew her through, a dozen occasions together.
How would you describe Nikki?
Upbeat, happy, driven person.
Do you know when Nikki first started dating Doug?
No, I don't.
Other than the handful of times you were with them, do you know anything else about the relationship?
Nope.
So then I want to focus on when you were at the watering hole. Who was the original group that arrived?
The original group would be myself, Crystal, Angela, Darcy, Courtney, and Mike Gillespie, and Greg Matthew.
Now, is that a group of people that has hung out in the past?
Not in that configuration, but in general, yes.
In general, everybody knew each other.
Right.
Do you think, in general, as a decent group of friends?
Yes, I do think we're decent people.
And then eventually, Nikki and Doug met up at the watering hole with that group?
That's correct.
Had Nikki ever hung out with that group of people before?
I don't believe she had hung out with the girls. I think she hung out with Greg and I, but I don't, maybe like one other time.
So this was a relatively new group of people to Nikki?
It was.
And you said that everybody was having a good time at the watering hole?
That's correct.
Can you just describe the atmosphere a little bit there?
It's a rock and roll concert, lights, music,
Loud,
loud, yep.
a lot of fun,
A lot of fun, definitely.
and nobody was fighting at that time?
No,
And what time did you see Greg and Doug talking to another female friend?
it'd be between the opening act and the main band that was playing.
Do you remember what time that was at?
Somewhere between 9 and 10 or so.
Who was that person, that female?
Her name?
Yes,
Andrea. She's married now, so I don't know her last name.
sure.
Her,
And how was she part of that group?
she had gone to school with us?
So Doug and Greg knew her from the past.
Yes.
Did Nikki know her?
No, not to my knowledge. Nikki didn't know her.
Was Nikki with them at that time?
I don't recall that.
So in general, everybody's having a good time at the watering hole, and then at some point, the Steel Panther concert ends, correct?
That's correct.
And then once the concert's over, where does the group meet at the watering hole?
There's like sand volleyball courts, where the sand volleyball courts kind of ends. There's some concrete back there. We kind of were all congregating right there.
Was that the plan to meet after the concert in that area?
No, but throughout the concert, we didn't stay too far away from each other. We kind of had a general area where we were all standing, so
So your general group was able to stick together at that point,
that's correct, yeah.
but not Greg and Doug, right?
Not at that exact moment.
How long had they been missing from the group?
I would say 20 minutes.
And then how long did it take your group to decide where you were going to go
It was within that time.
within that time frame?
Yep.
And then you kind of got Nikki to come with the group?
That's correct.
Why did you decide on the watering can or the sardine can?
It's a hangout some of the girls like to go to.
And how many people were in one vehicle?
To go to the sardine can,
Right.
5.
Okay. Was there other people that went to the sardine can in a different vehicle?
No,
So that was a decent sized group going to the sardine can though as well, right?
you're right.
Were people talking, having a good time in the car?
Yep.
Nobody was upset.
No one was upset.
Nobody was angry.
No.
Do you remember what everybody was talking about or anything, just the concert in general? Or do you remember that or no?
I think they were just talking about where they were headed.
But again, Doug and Greg were not in that car at all, right?
No, they weren't.
But you expected that Doug and Greg were gonna be coming to the sardine can,
Yes, I did expect that.
and that they were gonna meet you there,
Correct.
and then Doug would be meeting Nikki there.
That's right.
So then your group gets to the sardine can, and you go inside, and what's that atmosphere like?
It wasn't like a packed house, but there was quite a few people on the patio bar, and there was a live band inside, so it was a little more kind of rowdier inside.
And so I've never been there, so there's a patio outside, it sounds like, a bar inside. Can you just describe that a little more?
Yeah, there's like an enclosed patio, like right next to the street, and that has like a tiki bar, or whatever you want to call it, on the outside, so they can serve drinks on the outside during good weather time, and then there's like an entrance to the main bar coming from the outside bar.
Was your group still having a good time at that time?
Yes,
Did Nikki still seem to be having a good time?
she did.
And you said the group of girls was dancing,
That's right.
and Nikki was part of that?
Mm-hmm.
And you said that maybe she was drunk, but not too drunk. I believe you defined it as a 6 out of 10.
Yes.
And then later in the night at the sardine can, you saw Nikki at the bar with another guy. Do you know who that was?
No, I don't know that guy.
Did she seem to know him?
Yeah, but she is that type where she could, she is very personable. She'll talk to anybody like that. So I don't know if that was the case, but it was brief in their moment together.
And to be fair, speaking of her personality, I mean, she didn't even know the girls in your group that long, so that really kind of defines her personality. Outgoing, bubbly.
Correct.
And then when she was talking to that guy at the bar, did she ever seem angry with him?
No.
Did she ever seem scared around him, or?
No, she did not.
And then the night just continued. The group you were with was happy and having a good time.
That's correct.
Did Doug and Greg show up?
No, Greg and Doug did not show up.
And then after about an hour, your group decided to leave around 1 a.m.,
Be about 12:30.
about 12:30. Were you surprised that Doug still had not been there?
No, I wasn't surprised.
Why were you not surprised that Doug was there? Or that Doug wasn't there?
Doug tends to take his time sometimes. So it wasn't. I thought he would be along. I didn't realize the timing of everything was going to come to a halt like that, but
And then you decide to leave and somebody calls an Uber?
correct.
And then eventually, is the group actually outside the bar then, or are they in the patio part of the bar, or the tiki part?
Yeah, we're on like the table closest to Howard Street, and there's like a gate there that's just open, so you can walk in, walk out.
And the group is still having, from what you can tell, a good time. Nobody's angry, nobody's upset.
No, but it's getting to the point where everybody's thinking about going home or getting closer to home.
And then Nikki tries to call Doug, and he doesn't answer, right?
Right.
And then Angela tries to call Doug, and he does answer, right?
It wasn't back to back, but it was probably within 10 minutes or so.
And that's when Nikki's entire attitude changed.
Correct.
How would you describe her? Was she angry that Doug didn't answer her call?
Yes.
So up until that point, Nikki was having, from what we've heard today, a pretty good time, maybe a great time. And then it was Doug not answering her call that really made her angry.
Right.
And she was so angry, she just left the bar.
Correct.
And then you were somewhat worried and you tried to walk after her.
You're right.
And you did everything you could to try to keep her with your group.
I did.
And then you testified that the next day you sent some text to Doug and you said he seemed concerned. Were you actually with Doug at all the next day?
No, I wasn't.
Did you talk to him on a phone call?
I don't recall talking to him on the phone Saturday.
So how do you actually know he was concerned?
Just the way through his text, I could, because our texts are usually upbeat and about something we're gonna do, and I could just tell the tone, and he was different. I could just tell something, you know, really concerned, and yeah.
And then you eventually ended up talking to Investigator Shield.
Correct.
And when you were talking to Investigator Shield and telling him about that next day on the 21st, Doug had told you that he was going to file a missing person report at 6 p.m.
I don't remember 6 p.m., but
If I were to show you the statement you gave Investigator Shield from that day, would that help just jog your memory? It's a long time ago.
I'll look at it, but again, they came at 3 in the morning, and I had taken sleeping pills before that, so my recollection wasn't the best, but yeah, I can look at it.
May I approach?
Go right ahead.
The statement that you gave Officer Shield, and then I'm going to show you the third page. I have it highlighted right at the bottom. If you could just read that last paragraph.
Me then told me he was going to...
Sorry, you can read that to yourself.
Mhm.
So did that help refresh your memory, Aaron?
It didn't do anything. Again, I made that statement at 3 a.m. on sleeping pills, so
Sure. But did rereading it help you remember what you said on that day?
no, it didn't.
Go ahead. If you're talking up there, though, make sure you talk a little louder. You don't have the microphone.
Aaron, I'm going to hand you what's marked as Exhibit 38. If you could take the exhibit, do you recognize that at all?
I recognize my signature. The statement was, he didn't show me his statement he wrote. I assume this is it.
And then on the top, it has the date, and it has your name, and that is your signature.
That is my signature.
And do you recognize, is this familiar with or similar, the same statement you gave to police on May 22nd, 2016?
Well, this is the statement, right?
Is this your statement that you gave on that day?
Yes, this is my statement.
Judge, I would move to admit exhibit, is that 38?
It's 38. Any objections subject to cross?
With respect to that portion, there's no objection.
With respect to that portion, 38 is received.
Thank you. And then Mr. Kalinsky, if you can just turn right to that third page that we pointed out earlier.
Yep, I got it.
And then, so you're talking to Doug on Saturday, that would be May 22nd. Doug then told you that he was going to file a police report at about 6 p.m. for a missing person report. That's what the exhibit says?
That is what the exhibit says.
And that's what you told Officer Shield on the 22nd?
If that's what's in this statement, then he wrote that down, hearing that from me.
I have no further questions.
Any Kerrigan mayors, any redirect?
Yes, thank you, sir. So I know you still have that exhibit in front of you, and you've had that comment pointed out to you. This communication you're indicating came through texting, is that correct?
Correct.
And this took place, this timing of this texting took place the Saturday after you'd been out,
Yes, the 21st.
May 21st, 2016. And you indicate this happened, you got this information from Doug Detrie a little after noon, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's in your statement as well?
Yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
Any recross?
No, thank you.
If you're, and you may step down. State's next witness.
We'd ask that he be excused, Your Honor.
He is excused.
As for Greg Matthew, please.
Done?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Gregory Joseph Matthew, M-A-T-H-U.
Thank you.
All right, Greg, you may be seated, and whenever you're ready.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, your name again, sir?
Gregory Joseph Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. I'm going to ask if you want just to shift your chair to where you're comfortable. There's two microphones in front of you if you want to position them where it works best with your
Okay.
height. Thank you. So, are you someone who's always lived in this area, sir?
For 2 years, I moved to North Carolina with some friends, I think 2005 to 2007.
Where were you born?
Green Bay.
Okay. Did you go to school here?
Yes, I went to Green Bay Preble.
Did you graduate from Preble?
Yes, I did.
Did you go on to school after that?
Yes, I went to Fox Valley Tech, and I graduated from UWGB.
What year did you get out of UWGB?
2009, 2010, maybe.
Okay.
Might be 10.
Do you, do you have a degree then from UWGB?
Yes, I have a degree in history.
When you were at Preble, did you know a Doug Detrie?
Yes, he was a close friend of mine.
Did you know him before Preble?
I mean, he went to Edison Middle School, but I wouldn't say that we were friends at that point. I came from a small Catholic school.
Which one?
So, Holy Martyrs of Gorkum, it doesn't exist anymore now. It's a pre-K
It's happening in many
school,
places.
yes.
So with respect to high school, is it that point in time you really got to know Doug?
Yeah, probably freshman year,
Were you in the same grade?
yes.
When would you say you actually became friends?
When we were 15,
Did you remain friends throughout high school?
yes,
As you both went on after high school, did you stay in touch?
yes,
So to this day, are you still pretty good friends?
yes,
And was it pretty a constant friendship no matter where you lived?
yeah.
When you were not living in the area, did you stay in contact with him?
Yeah, I mean, I would come back, obviously, to see my family, and, you know, we would hang out with our group of friends when I would come home.
And how old are you now, sir?
36,
Are you employed at this time?
yes.
What type of occupation?
I am a machine operator at R.R. Donnelly.
Okay. What type of machines?
They're mail packing machines. I work in a department that has a lot of different machines, and I go around, fix them, get them to work better for the people that run them,
Okay.
set them up.
How long have you held that position?
That current position, like 3.5 years. I've worked there for 5 years.
So you've known Doug Detrie for quite some time.
Yes,
Did you ever meet Nicole Vanderheiden?
yes, I did.
Do you recall approximately how long ago?
Pretty much from the start. I mean, I met her, I think they had met in January of 2015, and I think I met her in February of that year.
So at some point in time, did you become aware they were seeing each other?
Yes.
And it seemed that you were in pretty quickly as the start of their relationship, you got to meet her?
Yes.
How many times do you think you'd been in her company?
A lot.
Can you give us an instance?
I would say over the year that she lived with Doug, I probably saw her twice a week throughout that year
Where would those sightings take place?
at Doug's home.
So you were invited to their home on a regular basis? And I'm sorry, I know I sometimes am talking when someone else is. If you could just wait till I finish the
Sorry.
question. Thank you. And where did they live?
On Berkeley Road in East Superior.
Did you go out socially with them from time to time?
Not very often. I mean, they were kind of at home. She was pregnant, you know, for a large period of the time, and then for the rest of that time, she, you know, had a small child. So going out and drinking wasn't something we did very often.
But you spent time with the two of them from time to time?
Yes.
Did you see her once the child was born as she took her role as a mother?
Yeah.
How would you describe that role?
I mean, she's fantastic. I thought it was perfect for Doug, that's what he needed. That,
It worked well?
yeah, that he needed a great mom, and she was.
Did you personally share any interest with Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, she had a degree, I believe, in biology from UWGB. We graduated around the same time, but I had never really, you know, I didn't know her from UWGB. But, you know, I've many interests in science and technology and diet, nutrition, and I would share those with her when I would go over there, and she always seemed to be excited to hear whatever new thing I had learned. So we had a good relationship.
So you would interact with her, not just Doug, when you'd go over to their home?
Yeah, I would interact. I mean, she would be more interested in stuff like that than Doug would be, so she was always excited to hear whatever I had learned recently.
Was there ever a time that you actually helped watch Dylan?
Yeah, on New Year's Eve, Doug and I decided to let Nikki go out with her sister Heather for New Year's, and we stayed home and watched Dylan while her and Heather went out.
And were you aware if she was breastfeeding?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think she pumped enough prior to that, I mean, Nikki was very serious about the health of her children, so I would assume that she pumped enough that she could get through a day or two.
So over the course of the time they lived together, you saw them together on a fairly regular basis?
Yeah.
With respect to the time that you personally observed them, did you see them argue?
I mean, not really. No more than normal people argue. I mean,
How did they get along overall while you were present?
I thought, great, you know. I thought they were perfect for one another.
Were there plans to go out on May 20th of 2016?
Yes.
And what were you going to do on that occasion?
Me and a group of my friends had planned to go to the watering hole to see a band that we liked. They normally only toured they go back and forth from Las Vegas to LA, but they started to tour around the country as they got bigger. And when we found out they were going to the watering hole, you know, we were really excited. I mean, I think we found out probably about 3 months prior to them showing up that they were going to be there.
Had you seen this band before?
No, I have not. I was
the-
just a fan of their music.
And what was the name of the band?
Steel Panther?
When you got organizing this group, did it include Doug and Nikki?
No, it did not.
So how did that come about?
I'd encourage Doug, you know, that it'd be fun. I'm sure that Nikki would like to get out of the house and that we could go out and have a fun time. I'm sure she hadn't really gone out since New Year's, you know, so this is 5 months later, so.
So she wasn't out drinking on a regular basis.
No.
So Doug agreed that that was a good idea?
I mean, I wasn't sure at the time if he was going to go, but he said, you know, I'll try to find a babysitter and, you know, maybe we'll meet you guys there.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't a definite that he was going to?
No, it wasn't a definite that he was going to go.
Okay. But you told him what time he'd be arriving and what time the concert
Yeah.
was? So did you go with Doug and Nikki that evening to go to the concert?
No, I did not.
How did you proceed?
I went to a friend, a sister's friend's house, Angela Delphos. She's, you know, not really a close friend of mine, but her sister, Crystal Kane, I stood up in their wedding. You know, she's always been a close friend, so I went over there to meet the group of people before we went out.
And what group was that?
Courtney Gerlikowski, Crystal Kane, Angela Delphos, Mike Gillespie, Aaron Klinsky. I think at that particular residence, that was all the people that were there before we went. We met other people when we got there.
And that was basically the group that was going to go on to the watering hole?
The group that was going to leave from her house, but we were meeting Scott Peterson, Jesse Barakashan ended up coming, Sean Gahagan and his wife ended up coming.
How did you
My
leave?
friend Katie Jones.
I'm sorry. How did you leave? In what cars?
I rode with Aaron, and I believe everybody else got into Mike Gillespie's van.
Do you remember about what time you left Angela's?
Maybe 6:30, quarter to 7. I think we arrived close to 7, 7:30 maybe.
Okay. Was Doug there yet?
No, not when we first arrived.
Do you know what time he arrived?
Maybe about 8.
Was he with anyone?
He was with Nikki.
So did the concert then take place?
Yep.
Were you drinking?
Yes.
Was Doug drinking?
Yes.
Was Nikki drinking?
Yes.
Was everybody drinking?
Yes. Everybody was drinking.
Was everyone interacting amongst themselves? Could you see them?
Yeah. There were a lot of people out there. I believe it's called the Sandlot or the Sandbox. There were a lot of people there, but we kind of had a general idea of where our group was.
As you watched Doug and Nikki interact, did you draw any conclusions about how they were getting along?
I thought everybody was having a great time.
At some point in time, did you and Doug run into some woman that you knew from your earlier school years?
Katie Jones was a good friend of mine. I hadn't seen her since she got married. She got married to Paul Hanna. He's the lead singer of Annex. I didn't see her since that time, and she's a close friend of mine that I've also known for 20 years, and we saw her at one point and talked to her for some period of time at the end of the concert.
Was she with anyone?
Her husband, he was there, but we wanted to meet him and congratulate him, and, he never ended up coming up to where we were. So, it was clearing out at that time, so there were a lot of people. The bathroom lines got incredibly long. I was in the line. I got into the bathroom, and when I came out, I saw that Doug was, a ways back in the line, and I told him that I would give him a ride. At that time, I didn't see our friends there.
So, excuse me. So at some point in time, you
At
talked...
the end of the concert, sorry.
Okay. While you were there, were there other people that you ran into that you recognized?
At the end, we saw a friend, Andrea Fatlove. She went to high school with us. Her name was now Huber. Her and her husband were there at that time, at the end when we were walking out.
Okay. Did you approach and talk to her?
Yes.
Was her husband present for that?
Yes, Caleb. I believe Caleb.
Was Doug with you at that time?
Yes.
So all four of you were then talking?
Yes.
Was that the extent of it?
Yeah, we were just kind of catching up on I'm friends with her on Facebook, so I would see different things in her life, and I was telling her, she has a son was going to Preble, and, we were just kind of catching up.
Now, did you see Nikki throughout the course of the evening? I don't mean every minute, but did you see her from time to time?
Yeah, I saw her pretty frequently.
At any point in time, did she seem upset to you while you were at the watering hole?
No, she seemed like she was having a very fun time.
At any point in time, did Doug seem upset about anything while you're at the watering hole?
Nope.
How did he appear?
He He was having a good time. He was drinking.
While you're at the watering hole, did you ever see an argument between Nikki and
No, I did not.
Doug Detrie?
No.
So you said the lines were long for the bathroom.
Yes.
Is that when you lost track of Nikki?
That is when I lost track of, yes, the rest of our group.
And when you and Doug both finished, your group was no longer in sight?
No, they were not.
Did you know where you were supposed to meet up?
We knew that everybody was going to the sardine can, yes.
How'd you find that out?
It was talked about earlier when we were all still together as the concert started to kind of break out.
So the group had been conversing and in touch with each other throughout the course?
While the concert was going on,
And
yes.
if you could just give me a chance to finish the question, sir, okay? Thanks. So you said to Doug you'd give him a ride, is that correct?
Yes,
And did you then leave from the watering hole?
yes.
About what time did you leave?
We ended up talking to Andrea and her husband for some period of time. I believe Doug bought a round of shots for all of us, and I told him I didn't really want to have the shot. I took that one. We were kind of losing track of time. I believe I received a text at some point from one of our friends that was at the sardine can saying, "Where are you guys? Why are you not here yet?" And I told Doug, you know, we need to leave. You know, I think, you know, it's been longer than we thought it was.
Were you still having a good time at that point?
Yes.
So do you recall about what time you left the watering hole?
I believe about 12:25, somewhere around there, maybe 12:20. I went to get my car from the Sandlot parking lot, which was pushed quite a bit back. I drove up, I parked, and I sent Doug a text, you know, to hurry up and get outside.
Now, do you know how Doug had arrived at the watering hole this evening?
He had driven his car.
Okay. What happened to his car as you drove him out?
He had left his car there.
Where did you go from there?
We left the parking lot, we took a right onto Velp. We were driving down Velp. Doug was talking to Nikki. She was upset. He was telling her, "We're on our way, you know, just go back to the sardine can. We'll be there in 5 minutes. Where are you? We'll come pick you up." He kind of kept repeating that. And when I got to the corner of Velp and North Platten, I took a right. I parked at 1253 North Platten, which was a residence I used to live at with a friend of mine named Josh Andrews. And I told Doug to give me his phone. At that point, Doug, to my surprise, handed me his phone. And I said, you know, "Nikki, it's Greg. Please tell me where you are. I'll pick you up wherever you are. I don't want to get an OWI. You know, just tell me where you are."
And did she tell you?
No, she made a comment that she didn't believe it was me, that it was Doug playing a trick on her, which I was, "Nikki, you know, it's me. I'll pick you up wherever you are." And at that point, her phone shut off. I don't believe she hung up on me. I believe the battery died. It wasn't like she was, you know, angry and hung up. I think her battery died. Doug continued to try to call her back with no success.
And he's a passenger. He's able.
Yes,
He was able to keep making phone calls while the vehicle was moving. Is that correct?
he attempted to, yes.
But you could tell at this point that she was upset. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. I wasn't sure why at the time.
Did Doug get angry with respect to her comments?
No, he did not.
But it was apparent to you that she was no longer at the sardine can. She'd made it clear that she was walking at this point in time.
Yes.
You indicated, did you ask her more than once to tell you where she was?
I believe so, yes.
Did she ever tell you?
No, she did not.
At some point in time, well, strike that. Where did you go from there?
We drove closer to the sardine can. We drove up and down a few different roads looking to see if we could find her. With her phone dying and not having a great ability to contact her, we decided that maybe she went back to the sardine can. That's what we had kind of hoped. And we went to the sardine can.
And did you go inside?
Yeah, we went into the patio bar smoking area.
Did you have anything to drink there?
At one point, I walked in to find Doug, and he was standing at the bar with 2 shots, and he said that he didn't know where his wallet was, and he asked me to pay for it. And
But did you have anything to drink there, sir?
I did take a shot with him at that point, yes.
Did you pay for his shots?
Yes.
Do you know how long approximately you were at the sardine can?
I mean, I believe it was about an hour. I believe we left at around 2:15. I think we arrived around 1:15 or 1 o'clock.
Was anyone from your group at the sardine can when you arrived?
No, they were not.
And when you drove around the area, did you see Nikki anywhere?
No, we did not.
Where did you go from there?
From there, we drove up and down a couple streets. I mean, sort of looking to see if she, was walking on her way back, since it was kind of nearing bar close. We thought maybe she would have walked back to the sardine can at some point, closer to bar close. When I got to Gray Street, I knew that Gray Street connected to Atkinson, and I took Gray Street to Atkinson. I got on to the highway. I went over Tower Drive Bridge, drove around to the 172 exit, got off on Monroe Street, and headed to Doug's home.
Now, was anyone else trying to contact Nikki during this time period?
During that time period, I mean, I'm not sure who else, but Doug obviously had continued to call the entire time.
While you were at the sardine can, did you ask around for Nikki?
Yes.
Of whom did you inquire?
There were 2 gentlemen that said that they had seen her, but that she had not returned after she left originally. I'm not sure of either of their names.
At some point in time, was there an occasion where prescription Adderall came into view?
Yes, I had prescription Adderall.
You have a prescription for Adderall?
No, I do not.
Oh. And was there some Adderall usage in your presence that evening?
I had, yes.
And from whom did you receive that?
I believe Doug.
Does Doug have a prescription for Adderall?
Yes, he does.
Do you know where you were when that happened?
What's that?
Do you know where you were when you received the Adderall?
Prior to the concert.
So before you got to the watering hole?
Yes, before I went to Angela Delphos's.
Pardon? Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't phrase it correctly. When was it actually used?
Oh, I mean, after the sardine can.
Where were you when that happened?
In my car.
And who was with you?
Doug was.
And if you saw, did Doug Detrie use any Adderall?
I mean, I'm not sure. There's a chance that because of his drunkenness, I might have pressured him in to doing it, but would be a very unusual thing for me to see. I don't think that I can recall another occasion that I ever saw Doug sniff Adderall.
Did you think that would have a counterbalance to being drunk?
I thought maybe it would help him, not be hammered drunk, that he might.
And is that the reason you were using it?
Yes.
Did it assist you then?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it kind of stops the inhibition that alcohol brings on. I'm more aware of the amount that I drank and the time period that I drank it over, and it increases your focus while driving.
And you had to drive at that point?
Yes.
So you described the route that you took. You ended up going back to the Nicole and Doug's home?
Yes.
Do you recall about what time you got there?
I believe around 2:45 a.m.
Do you remember where you parked?
In the driveway.
Was there anyone there when you arrived?
Dallas Kennedy.
And was she the babysitter for the night?
Yes. I never met her prior to that moment, but yes.
Did you stay very long?
No, I mean, I had worked in the morning from 3 to 11 for a friend that needed somebody to cover his shift. So I was up at 9 in the morning and I was tired.
What time do you think you left?
I looked at my clock when I got into my car and it was 3:01. I believe my clock is 3 minutes fast, so I believe it was 2:58.
Was Dallas still there when you left?
Yes, she was.
Where did you go from there?
I went to my home.
And about how long did it take you to get there?
Maybe 15 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that.
When you got home, did you do anything with your phone?
When I got home, I went in the bathroom, I brushed my teeth, I played like 5 games of Candy Crush, I went into my room, I plugged my phone in, it was dead at the time, and I fell asleep.
Do you know when your phone went dead?
I would imagine around 1:30 a.m., I believe. I sent out a text at like 1:15, I think, to Aaron saying, what happened with Nikki? Where is she? What happened?
Did you hear back from Aaron?
I didn't get his text until the next day when I woke up.
Did you have communications with Doug Detrie the following day?
Yes, I did.
Did you end up going over to be with him?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember about what time you got over there?
I believe maybe 4:15, 4:30, somewhere in that time. I told him the night before that anytime he needed a ride to his car to let me know. And he had texted me at some point that his parents were coming to watch Dylan and that he would like me to give him a ride to his car. He then called me and he had said that he was going to fill out a missing persons report. He said he was worried because no matter how mad Nikki was at him, there's no way she would ever leave Dylan for that long, and that if I wanted to, he would let me know when the missing persons report was done, and I could come then pick him up and bring him to his car. And I said, I was a lot more sober that night. Maybe I can help better with the missing persons report.
Prior to your going to his house, is it correct, at 9:30 a.m. you received a message from him?
No, I mean, that time I hadn't actually checked all the timestamps on when I received messages. I believe that his Facebook message that he sent me was closer to noon.
Oh, okay. And did he indicate why he was textbook messaging you?
He texted me, he said, I still can't, Nikki still isn't home. I can't find my phone. Is it in your car? And I was just getting into my car at that time. I called to see if I would hear his phone ring. And I remembered that he was making phone calls to Nikki's phone within his residence that night. And I sent him a message back saying, your phone has to be at home. You were calling in your kitchen, so it can't be in my car.
So he didn't even remember where he'd last seen his phone, is that correct?
Yes.
But you helped him piece that together, is that correct?
Yes.
While he was having this conversation with you, communicating with you in this, did he indicate that he was still trying to call her or reach out to Nikki?
Well, at that time, he didn't have his phone at 12:04, but I think that he was sending Facebook messages to her family. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that.
Did you in fact go take him to go pick up his car at any point in time on that day?
No, we ended up not doing that.
About what time did you then go over to his home?
I believe 4:15, 4:30, I think I arrived. I think when I got there, Diane, Bob, Dylan, and Doug were at the residence, and soon after, the police arrived.
So the people you named, are those Doug's parents?
Yes, sorry, child.
How did Doug appear at this point in time?
Pretty normal, concerned. I mean, I think, he probably had to wake up with a 6-month-old child at some point, after going to bed at, past 3 in the morning. So You look tired, you look concerned, but nothing out of the ordinary.
The police arrived, you're indicating?
What's that?
The police did arrive, is that correct?
Yes, they arrived soon after I had arrived.
And did Doug allow them into the home?
Yes,
Did you also agree to speak with them?
yes,
Did you observe Doug sit down and talk with the police?
yes I did.
While you were there, were you also helping try to reconstruct a timeline?
Yes, I was.
What did you do in that regard?
Doug isn't great with time, so when he was telling them a time that I didn't think was accurate, I would correct it.
Were you able to use your phone to assist in that manner?
At that point, I hadn't really looked back. I was just kind of going by memory. I hadn't actually looked at the timestamps of all the different texts and messages.
Did you see Doug pull his phone out at any point in time?
Yes,
Was he looking at it also as he gave information to the police?
yes he was.
Did he actually, on a number of occasions, show his phone and its contents to the officer who was there?
Yes, he did.
Did whatever information they were looking at, did that also sometimes indicate times when things took place?
Yes,
You have met with the police a number of times in this matter, is that correct?
yes I have.
And in fact, you've agreed to give a number of different written statements as well as speak to them, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And while you were present, Doug was doing the same. He was speaking of his own free will with the officers who were at his home.
Yes,
At some point in time, did you actually even give a buckle, a swab of your mouth to the police?
yes, I gave them my DNA.
Did the police actually look your car over very carefully?
Yes, they took it initially the first night, and then they took it for a month.
Imagine that was rather inconvenient.
Yes, it was.
How long did you stay at Doug Detrie's home while the police were there on that day?
I'm not sure exactly when I left, but at some point, one of the officers, I was outside smoking a cigarette with Dustin Clark and the officer, and he asked if I would go to the Brown County Sheriff's Office to give my own missing person statement. And I agreed because I felt weird that I was interrupting him when he was trying to give the statement, so I thought maybe mine would be more accurate on the timeline of what of the events of that night. So I went to the Brown County Sheriff's Station probably around 7:30, maybe 7 o'clock, somewhere around there.
Who did you say you were smoking with?
One of the officers that had come to the house, I'm not sure of his name.
Okay, thank you.
There were a lot of police officers that
And you indicated that there were times you chimed in while Doug was dealing
Yes.
with the officer, is that correct?
yes,
And was that primarily a female officer?
yes it was.
Did Doug seem irritated by that, or did he seem to think that was helpful?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't. I didn't really feel like he seemed irritated with me chiming in.
I don't have any further questions, thank you.
All right, this is a good time to take our mid-morning break. We'll be back here at 10:25.
All rise.
Sure.
Let's be seated. All right, we're back on the record in the Burch matter. Appearances are the same as they were earlier this morning. Mr. Matthew is still on the witness stand, and we're about ready for cross-examination. Greg, I will remind you, you're still under oath,
Yes.
and whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. Greg, can you tell us what some of your hobbies are?
I mean, I like to learn. I like to learn about everything I can. I frisbee golf,
Tell us more about what you like to learn about.
all different sorts of subjects. I like listening to podcasts, Radio Lab.
And what type of podcasts?
I mean, science, technology, biology. I mean, anything.
What about those things intrigues you?
Just learning about nutrition, life. I mean, space travel, the future. I mean, it's exciting to me. I think it's fascinating to listen to intelligent people talk about interesting things.
Do you have any favorite podcasts?
I mean, probably the Joe Rogan Experience.
Do you like to disc golf in this area in general?
Yeah, we go all around the area.
What are your favorite disc golf parks?
Probably Brilliant, Manitowoc.
You like science, you like tech. Did you take any of those classes when you went to GB?
No, I did not. I took mostly writing classes.
Do you have any interest in going back and taking any of those classes?
I'm going to object to relevancy.
Well, it's cross-examination, but relevance, Attorney Schuchert?
Just getting background information on this individual that I believe he shared those similar interests with the victim.
I'll allow some of it, overruled.
Do you have any desire to go back and take some of those classes?
I mean, not really, no. I think I can learn far more from the experts in those fields than going to school to take those classes.
Let me stop you for a minute, Great. Can everyone hear the witness? All right, just make sure you speak nice.
All right.
Loud. Sometimes you tail off at the end. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, thanks. How long have you known Doug?
20 plus years.
Do you consider him your best friend in Green Bay?
One of,
Are you one of his better friends in Green Bay?
yes.
Are you both friends with Dustin Clark?
Yes.
And you were friends with the other people you went to the Steel Panther concert that night?
Most of them, yes.
How many times have you, if you could just approximate, hung out with that general group of people?
Quite a few over the last 20 years.
What do you and Doug like to do for fun?
Play Mario Kart. I mean, he comes frisbee golfing rarely with Dustin and I. That's something more that Dustin and I do.
Sure. How often would you and Doug drink together?
Not very often over the last 10 years. I don't really drink all that much.
Did you at times go to the bars with him?
In our early 20s and our later 20s, yes. I think about 28 is when I kind of stopped frequenting bars.
And what was Doug like when he drank?
Fun, the life of the party.
And you also, in this case, you've met with multiple officers throughout the investigation.
Yes.
And at one of those meetings with Investigator Olmsted, you also described Doug when he drank. He could be a drunk asshole at times.
I mean, not to me, but yes, other people could perceive him as being, you know, a jerk.
And then you started to get to know Nikki as well, right?
Yes.
How did you get along with Nikki?
Good. We're friends. I think she respected me.
And you shared interests?
I mean, she had a biology degree, so yeah, things that were in the field of biology I thought would be interesting to her, I would talk to her about them, yes.
And what kind of things did she talk with you about?
I mean, diet and nutrition were kind of the big ones that she was very proactive in staying fit, eating right.
Now, did you talk to your other friends about that stuff?
I mean, yeah,
And were they usually active in those conversations and they took an interest in them?
sometimes.
Did you typically talk about those things with Doug?
Yeah, I mean, if I heard something really interesting, I would bring it up to Doug, yes.
And you shared those same things with Nikki?
Yes,
And she was interested in those things?
yes,
And you guys had conversations about those issues and subjects?
yes, we did.
And it helped you connect with Nikki in a way?
Yeah.
You obviously, and we can tell here today, you obviously cared very much for Nikki, right?
I mean, I care for both of them. I care very much for Dylan, too.
How long were Doug and Nikki dating?
I mean, a year and a half, I believe, around that.
And I believe, kind of told the officers that they started dating because of the pregnancy, right?
I mean, I believe that the pregnancy occurred early on in their relationship, yes.
And you said that, I believe you testified earlier, that Nikki was a good fit for Doug.
Yes, she was.
What did you mean by that?
She was a great mom. I'm not sure that, Doug hadn't raised any children yet. Nikki had two. She was very proactive. She knew the right things to do, and I think that between the two of them, it was a great fit for Doug to slowly transition into being a great dad. But, it was going to be a transition.
And at the time, he had no real experience being a father.
No.
What do you mean then he had a transition to that? Just that that's new to him?
Yeah, the child is more important than his own, fun, that he needed to learn that,
And at that time, he was kind of the irresponsible friend, and Nikki was helping with that.
Yeah, I mean, Nikki was very responsible.
And earlier you testified that you saw them together often,
Yes,
and you saw them argue, right?
I mean, on rare occasion, yes,
I believe you said like a normal couple would earlier.
yes, like any
Well-
other friends.
Can you just define real quick how often a normal couple fights?
I don't know. I mean, I'm only there so much, but I mean, I think I saw an argument on 2 occasions over the year and a half. One at a Packer-Cardinal playoff game that we went to, and one at a wedding.
So it was your opinion when you testified on direct that they were right for together, they were a good couple?
Yes,
Do you know where Doug worked?
he works for his parents. Detrie Construction.
Do you know where he was working in May of 2016?
I would imagine Detrie Construction.
So you didn't know at that time Doug was not working because he was having issues with Nikki?
No, I was not aware of that.
You weren't aware that the serious issues led him to quit working because the relationship
Yeah,
wasn't
I'm
a
gonna
fun.
object. He already said he wasn't aware, and this is definitely assuming facts, not in evidence.
Well, I'll sustain the objection.
Can I? Okay.
Wait, why don't you approach? Come on.
Greg, were you aware that they were trying to work on the relationship at that time?
I mean, isn't every relationship a work in progress? I mean, I don't know, they were about to have a major life change with Dylan, and, you have a newborn child, but
So you were aware that they were trying to
no,
work?
I mean, I wasn't aware of them telling me we're really working on our relationship. I mean, they were raising a newborn child together, I would imagine.
And you did testify that you had seen them argue a couple of times before. Can you tell us more about that?
I hadn't actually saw it at the Cardinal Packer playoff game. We went and watched the game. I told them that I would give them a ride at any time. I dropped them off at the Bar East, and I went to let a friend of mine's dog out, and I told them just to give me a call whenever they needed a ride, and I would give them a ride. I was not there for the argument. I received a text from Doug that she was in the back of a police car, and I was upset with him that he did not call me. Why would she be in a police car? So I didn't actually see the argument. I did go to their house later that night, and they were both fine. She was fine, trying to convince us that she could walk home in 30 below weather.
And what about the other time?
The other time, I also really didn't see it. I just know that she had went from the wedding to the hotel room upset with Doug. But I'm not really sure. I didn't see the argument, but I just heard afterwards that Nikki was angry with Doug in the hotel.
Do you remember whose wedding that was?
Dustin Clark and Christina Ingabus's wedding.
So then, Greg, I want to focus on the Steel Panther concert. Your group decided to meet there, but not everybody went together, correct?
Yes.
And Doug and Nikki, they traveled by themselves,
Yes.
and they were kind of a late addition to the group that was going to go to the concert.
Yes. They had decided that day.
Who did you primarily hang out with at the concert?
A friend of mine named Katie Jones. I hadn't seen her in a long since she had gotten married, and I was excited to see her.
Do you know who Doug primarily hung out with during that concert?
I am not sure.
Do you know who Nikki primarily hung out with during that concert?
I am not sure.
How was the concert?
It was fun. It was great. There were a lot of people there.
Loud?
Yeah.
Good band?
Yes.
Everybody was happy?
Yes.
Everybody was having a good time?
At the concert, yes, we were all having a great time.
And then towards the end of the concert, was that the first time you got separated from the group?
No, I mean, most of the concert, I was in and out. I was in the smoking section talking to my friend Katie for a period of time during the concert.
And at one point during the first band, were you, Doug, Katie talking in that smoking section?
No, I don't believe at that time that we were all talking. That was later in the evening after the concert had come to an end or closer to the end of the concert in the bar area.
So if Aaron testified that he saw you as a group talking there, how would you just explain that?
We were talking in the bar area to Katie after the concert. I don't know.
No explanation?
Not in the smoking area, I don't believe. I don't know. I can't recall that then. I don't know. I remember Katie and myself in the smoking area speaking together without Doug. I don't know if maybe he walked up at one point, but I remember Doug, I, and Katie speaking in the bar area later that evening, that we were talking in there. I believe that was as the concert was starting to clear out.
And I can't remember, did you say that at one of those points Doug was with you and Katie?
In the bar area, yes. We were asking her where her husband was. You know, you'd done great in the show to open up for the band, and, you know, we hadn't met him yet, so
Was Nikki with you at that time?
I don't believe that she was with us.
Would she have been with the rest of your group then?
I mean, she could have been anywhere. There were 2,000 people there.
Again, it was a big concert.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So then, once the concert ended, the big group of people that you were with ultimately left,
Yes.
and you and Doug were the only two that were left behind.
Yes, we were.
And that bigger group of people that left, how well did Nikki know them, if you're aware?
I mean, I would say not very well. Not like Doug and I. She may have saw some of the girls at baby showers for friends of ours. You know, she knew Aaron, I would imagine, somewhat better than the rest of the girls, but
So her closest friends or relationships of that group were you and Doug,
yes,
and you were left at the watering hole, and she was on her way to the sardine can.
yes,
But with Nikki's personality, she was still able to fit in with all of them and still have a good time.
yes.
At what point did you decide that you had to leave the watering hole?
I received a text saying, "Where are you? You know, why aren't you guys here yet?" And at that point, I realized, you know, that we had lost track of time, that it was later than I thought it was.
Do you remember who sent that text?
I'm not sure if it was Aaron or Crystal. I would imagine it was one of the two of them.
Where was Doug at this time?
I mean, I think he was standing next to me at the bar with Andrea and her husband.
Did Doug lose track of time too?
Yes.
At any point, did he tell you, Greg, we have to go, we have to meet back up with Nikki?
No, I told him we need to go.
And you told him that?
Yes. When I saw the text, I said, "Doug, we have to get out of here. I'll drive. My car's in the back parking lot." So it was a distance away. I walked to my car, I got into my car, I drove, up to the front door, and then I sent him a text to tell him to get outside.
Sure, and you sent him a text, just roughly to get outside.
Yes.
I think you told him that you're gonna pick him up outside in 5 minutes. And then a few minutes after that, you had to text him again, and you
Yes.
said, "Get the fuck outside now."
Yeah.
So at that point, you wanted things to get moving.
Well, I believe that they were leaving the concert, that they were leaving the sardine can. I had the full expectation that our friends were gonna stay at the sardine can until bar closed, so I did not know that it was an urgent situation that we get over there. But they had decided to leave early, and we still weren't there, so yes, I was telling Doug, we gotta go now.
Do you know where Doug was at that time?
I don't know, he was walking out the door after I sent the text.
Do you know what he was doing while you were going to get your car?
No, how would I know that?
Did he tell you what he was doing?
Objection calls for hearsay.
No.
It's been asked and answered. Continue.
Before you left the watering hole, is that when Doug ordered shots?
When we were at the watering hole, Doug got rounds of shots for me, Andrea, her husband.
And you didn't ask for that shot.
No,
And you didn't even want to take the shot.
no, I took the first one and he ordered another round of shots and I told him no.
And then Doug got in your car.
Yes,
Did you snort Adderall then when you were at the watering hole?
I did. Doug, when I went to get my car, Doug did not. I was about to drive and I did, yes,
And where'd you get that from?
from Doug.
Did he give it to you or sell it to you
He gave it to me,
that day?
yes,
At the concert or before?
prior.
And you don't have a prescription for Adderall?
No, I do not.
So essentially, he gave you drugs.
Yes, he did.
And then at some point on your way from the watering hole to the sardine can, Doug got a hold of Nikki.
Yes.
Describe that conversation for us if you can.
He just kept repeating, stop being stupid, go back to the sardine can, we're on our way, we'll be there in 5 minutes, where are you, we'll come pick you up. He just pretty much kept repeating those lines over and over, and when I thought he was getting nowhere with it, is when I took a ride onto North Platte and asked him for the phone. I was surprised he gave it to me, and calmly asked Nikki to tell me where she was so I could pick her up.
And just to back up, so you hear this conversation, you can't hear Nikki, can you?
No,
But you can kind of figure out what's being said just because you hear Doug's side of the conversation.
yes,
You can hear what he's saying in general.
yes,
And obviously, he's getting worked up because it sounds like Nikki's walking away from the watering, or the sardine can.
I would not say that he was getting worked up. I would say that he was actually quite calm.
Would you say that Doug was yelling at Nikki to get back to the sardine can?
Absolutely not.
So he was pretty calm that she was walking away from the sardine can and leaving the group of friends.
I mean, he was calm in his demeanor with her on the phone, just saying, stop being stupid. Go back to the sardine can. We're on our way. We're going to be there in 5 minutes. Where are you? We'll come pick you up. Wherever you are, just let us know.
So then you offered to actually take the phone once you pulled in to the driveway, right?
Yes.
Essentially, you thought you could possibly talk her down.
I thought I could, and he gave me the phone, so I'm assuming that he thought I could too.
And like we kind of talked about before, you were close with Nikki, you had that connection with her.
Yes.
You were probably more sober at that point.
Yes, I certainly was.
You were in a calmer mood.
I think we were both in calm moods. I don't think that he was upset or angry. I mean,
And then you started to drive again?
Yeah, somebody opened the door, and that's when I realized that obviously my friend Josh no longer lived there. And I pulled out of the driveway and continued driving, yes.
Why were you surprised that Doug gave you the phone?
Because I didn't think he'd just hand me his phone. I don't know.
And then once you started to drive towards the sardine can, were you looking for Nikki at that time?
Yeah, I mean, we drove up and down a few different roads around the sardine can before we inevitably went back to the sardine can.
So really at that time, you led the charge kind of to leave the watering hole to get to the sardine can because you knew your friends were leaving. You had taken the phone to try to calm Nikki down, and you were the one driving looking for Nikki, so you were doing everything you could at that time to find Nikki.
Yes.
And at that time, you were even possibly risking an OWI looking for Nikki.
Yes.
That's how concerned you were.
I mean, we were both concerned, but
And ultimately, you were unable to connect with Nikki.
yes, when her phone died, it kind of cut out our ability to at least communicate with her. So driving around for a little while, not seeing her anywhere around the sardine can, we assumed or hoped that she had walked back to the sardine can and we would meet back with her there. She knew that was the place we were going, so that's what we had hoped.
And then eventually, you actually arrived at the sardine can.
Yes.
Do you remember what time that was at?
I mean, I'm not 100% certain exactly when we got there. I mean, 1:15, somewhere in there. I mean, 12:50. I mean, you have the camera footage of us in the parking lot, I'm assuming, so you know what the time is, but I'm not 100% certain of when that was.
And I'm not trying to trip you up, I just approximate is fine. So then, what did you do when you walked in the bar?
We asked a couple people if they had seen Nikki, if they saw her come back. Two different gentlemen that are unidentified to me told me that they did, or told me and Doug.
What did Doug do at that time?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, you were with Doug, right?
Yeah, I was. I was talking to a gentleman that had seen Nikki.
And
Doug was there talking for a while. At some point, he went into the bar. I went to find him, and that's when he had, 2 shots and said he didn't have his wallet or didn't have money or
and we can stop
told me
before
to
we
pay.
get there. So you were walking around and asking people, where's Nikki? Trying to find Nikki.
He was also.
Sure. And you were concerned about Nikki because you wanted to make sure she was safe.
Yes.
And because Nikki was a good friend and you cared.
Yes.
But it's fair to say you were concerned at that point.
I mean, we wanted to find her, obviously. Her phone had died. How are we going to contact her? How is she going to get home? She doesn't have a phone to call a friend. So, yeah, I mean, I was worried. Where is she? What's she doing? She's got a 6-month-old child at home.
And all of those thoughts were going through your mind at that time.
And, yeah, I was surprised she didn't come back.
But at that time, Doug was pretty mad, right?
No. I mean, yeah,
If I can just
Wait, one at a time, just wait for his question and wait for his answer. Go
I
ahead.
mean, he was mad that she was acting stupid, that she wasn't coming back to the bar. What is she gonna do? But
And Doug
he
wanted
was not angry. He wasn't yelling,
And Doug wanted to drink at that time.
I mean, he obviously ordered a shot.
And Doug harassed the bartender at that time.
I did not see that. I walked in when the shots were on the table. I mean, he told me pay him, and the guy was like, whatever, take, I think I pulled out a $5 bill and he's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But yeah, I mean, he looked like he was perturbed. This drunk guy ordered shots and didn't pay for them.
And he was, directly told you, Nikki is being stupid, what the fuck?
I mean, it's possible, yes. I mean, I can't remember every single word that came out of his mouth. But yeah.
Because this has been a long time since then, right?
Yeah, it has been 2 years, yeah, well, almost 2 years, 22 months.
But thankfully you were able to talk with law enforcement soon after that.
Yes.
May I approach?
Go right ahead.
Oh,
Go right ahead. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We've discussed the next, I guess, line of questioning, so Attorney Schuckert, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Greg, you testified that soon after May 21st, you were able to meet with law enforcement about this case?
Yes.
And two of those law enforcement officers were Sergeant Holschbach and Sergeant Ehrenstein?
I don't remember their names, but I would imagine that was Monday night when I was being interrogated, yes.
Judge, if I could use the PowerPoint to show this exhibit?
You may.
So Doug, if you can just look at that screen, I'm sorry, Greg, if you can look at the screen behind you. Who is the person in the upper left? That's you, right?
Yes.
And then those are two officers that you recognize?
Yes.
And you did meet with them?
I did, yes.
So then I'm going to play for the record a 30-second clip
Okay.
from on this video, and should be the exhibit 1010 to 1040. And I don't know if we have the sound just right, so
Do you have it queued up so the jury can hear it?
I hope so.
All right.
I'm just going to turn it up a little bit.
There we go inside, Doug's mad, you know, he's like, ooh, she's being stupid, you know, what the fuck? And he wants a drink, and I'm like, and we get a shot at the bar, like he was harassing like the bartender inside. And he didn't have his wallet on him, or he didn't, you know, when he left his wallet in my car, he didn't have any money on him or something, and the bartender's just like, give me $5. And he's gonna have these stupid shots, he took the shots, and then I'm like, yeah.
And Greg, again, that was you?
Yes.
And that's what you told police on that night?
That is.
Judge, I would move for this exhibit to be admitted.
39.
Yes.
All right. Any objection to 39?
no, thank you.
39 is received.
Thank you. So as you heard in that video, Greg, you did tell law enforcement Doug is mad at that point. Right? We just heard it. That's what
Yeah, that he said, yeah, I'm mad. Why is she being so stupid?
And you heard
Did I say it in a way that's made Doug sound angry? I was doing my impersonation of Doug, who's pretty carefree. He's saying, yeah, why is she being stupid? What the fuck? I mean, that is what he said, I guess.
and you heard in there Doug wants to drink at that point,
I mean, yeah, he still wanted to take a shot. I did not. He did.
and Doug harassed the bartender.
I don't know what the bartender was feeling, but yes, at the time, I had said, you know, that the bartender seemed annoyed when I walked up and pulled out $5 and gave it to him. But I didn't see Doug harassing him necessarily before I walked up. I had assumed that.
And now this helps your memory. Doug specifically told you, Nikki is being stupid, what the fuck?
This has been asked and answered a number of times now.
All right, last time. Move on.
So eventually you decide to leave the sardine can?
Yes.
Were you still looking for Nikki at this point?
We drove up and down a few roads after.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. I asked a bad question. Were
Okay.
you still looking for Nikki around the sardine can before you got in your car?
I mean, we would have seen her as we walked from the sardine can to my car, but No, I don't know. I mean, if we saw her walking, we would have seen her.
And you went to your car at that point?
Yes.
And Doug was with you?
Yes.
Was anybody else with you?
There was a man, I'm not aware of his name. He was coming to the car as well.
And then you guys got in your car, and what did you do after that?
I had done a line of Adderall.
And Doug snorted a line of Adderall with you?
I believe he did. I'm not 100% sure. I believe I told the police that he did. But thinking back, it'd be so unusual to see him do that. But it is possible. But I know I did.
You've seen him snort drugs before, right?
Objection, Your Honor, can we approach?
We've had a brief discussion about the context of the question. The court will sustain the objection. Go ahead, Attorney Schuchard.
Thank you, Judge. So Greg, you testified today just right now that you're not sure necessarily if Doug snorted Adderall with you that night, correct?
At the time that I spoke to police, I believed he did. I was in an intense interrogation, and they were telling me to close my eyes and think and think and think. And at the time, I thought that, yes, I might have pressured him into doing one of the lines of Adderall, yes. But I can't say 100% with clarity, looking back on it now, whether he did or not. I'm not sure. I would think that most likely he did.
And when you say snort Adderall, does that mean does it come in a powder substance?
No, it does not.
So
It's to be taken by mouth, obviously.
Is it a pill?
Yes, it is a pill.
And then you have to crush that?
Yes.
And you guys took the time to crush it, line it up, and
I
then snort
did
it?
before he came to the car.
So you weren't together when you first got to the car? You didn't?
Now, I got to the car separately from him.
Do you know what area of the bar he was in when you left?
I believe the smoking section, but I can't be sure since I was not there.
When was the last time you saw him in the sardine can?
We were leaving. I walked out to the car a moment before he did.
So then after you snort the amphetamine, what do you do next?
We leave the parking lot, drive up and down a few different roads. Once I see Gray Street, I know it connects to Atkinson because I lived in that area. I got to Atkinson.
And then just a little before then, were you still looking for Nikki when you were leaving?
I mean, we drove up and down a couple streets, seeing if maybe she was walking back. It was close to bar close. If she had decided she didn't have a phone, she didn't know, how to get home, that maybe she cooled down and she was walking back to the sardine can.
And you were the one driving at that time?
Yes, I was.
Were you more sober at that time?
Yes. I probably had 2 shots over the last 3 hours at that point.
Were you still potentially risking an OWI at that time?
I mean, I don't know how quickly my blood alcohol goes down over time, so I'm not 100% sure. But yes, I still think that it was probably risky. I probably had 5 beers at the concert and 2 shots later from, that's from 8 o'clock to 2 in the morning. And I had 2 beers at Angela Delphos's earlier that night.
Did you stop drinking in part because you were trying to find Nikki and it was more chaotic?
I stopped drinking in part because I did not want to risk an OWI, and I wanted to make sure that I was reasonable to drive.
And again, you were looking for Nikki because you were worried about her and she meant a lot to you as a friend.
Yes,
You cared about her.
yes.
So then you said you took Gray to Atkinson, which I believe then you take the highways to get to Doug's. Do you remember what time you got to Doug's house?
I believe at 2:45 around that time.
Where'd you park?
I believe in the driveway.
Do you remember if the garage door was open?
I'm not sure.
Do you remember which way you entered his house?
I'm not sure if we went through the garage or if we went through the front door. I know when I left, I went through the front door, but I'm not sure.
You didn't stay very long?
No,
You left around 3 a.m.?
yes.
When you left, was the garage door open?
I'm not sure. I do not know.
When you did leave, were you still looking on the streets just in case Nikki was walking home?
I mean, not really. I mean, the idea that she'd be walking that far away. I mean, yeah, if I saw a blonde girl walking down Monroe, I would have stopped and given her a ride home, but no, I did not see her.
Were you still worried about her at that time?
I mean, yeah, how was she gonna get home? We thought maybe she would be home already, but she obviously was not.
And when you were in Doug's house, you were actively having a group conversation. You were talking about ways and things to try to look for Nikki.
I mean, I can't really recall exactly what the conversation between Doug, Dallas, and I was. We were just telling her, you know, try to call Nikki. We don't know where she is. You know,
And then you ultimately went home and went to sleep.
yes.
When did you hear again from Doug on the 21st?
I believe at noon, around noon. I'm not exactly sure at the exact time of the Facebook message. I know in the missing persons that I had said 9:30. When I later went back and checked the timestamp, I believe it was 12:04. I'm not sure. At that point, I had not looked back at every single text the entire night.
Do you remember what time you responded to him?
I mean, I think soon after.
And sometime after 4 p.m. was when Doug decided to file a missing persons report?
I don't know if it was after 4 or prior to 4. I mean,
You're
I
not
wasn't
sure.
with him when he had texted me at some point that he had contacted, as many people as he could think of that she would be with. And he sent me a text saying, call me. I'm not sure if he sent me a text saying he was doing the missing persons report or if he told me on the phone verbally that he was going to do the missing persons report.
And you were with him when he gave the missing persons report?
I arrived at the house hoping that I could help.
And that was after 4:30?
Yes.
And as we talked about, Greg, you met with law enforcement a few times.
Yes.
I believe May 21st, May 23rd, and May 26th.
Yes.
And you met 2 times with law enforcement at the sheriff's office? 2 of those times were at the sheriff's office?
Yes.
And you always agreed to meet with law enforcement?
Yes.
They never had to force you to come down?
No.
They asked you for your DNA, and you voluntarily gave that to them?
Yes.
You gave consent for officers to look through your car once on May 21st?
Yes.
You gave them consent to download your phone?
Yes.
You gave them consent and voluntarily gave them your car to be processed by the crime lab?
Yes.
And like you said before, that was pretty inconvenient.
Yeah, they had it for a month. It came back kind of destroyed.
And during all that time, you never demanded that they go get a warrant?
Yes.
They couldn't hear his last response.
Keep the volume up, Greg, but
Sorry.
repeat your answer to the question about your vehicle. Why don't you?
I'll
That my vehicle was returned, kind of destroyed with luminol everywhere. I mean,
And you never demanded that police get a warrant?
the Monday morning, I was kind of frustrated that they were going to come back after they had already taken my car the night before, that they're going to come back and take it again. But I didn't demand them get a warrant, and he told me he was taking it either way. So he had my consent to search for him, and they took it.
So you gave them pretty much a consent to do everything that they did in their investigation in this?
Yes, I did.
And you were as cooperative, really, as they could get?
I tried to be, yes.
And then on May 26th, that's when you had another meeting, but that was not at the sheriff's office?
Yes.
And that was with Investigator Olmsted?
Yes.
You kind of told Investigator Olmsted that you had been doing nothing but thinking about Nikki's case.
I was trying to prove to them that there's no possible way that Doug could have been involved with this while he was sitting in jail, and the child of his mother had been murdered. There couldn't be a worse place for him to be right now when he should be
What was Doug in jail for?
at the
No,
time.
I'm going to object to, he doesn't have any foundation to answer that question. He's not the arresting
Well,
officer.
relevance, Attorney Schuckert.
Do you know what Doug was in jail for?
Same
That's
answer,
laying the
no
foundation.
foundation.
We know why he was in jail. Let's move on to our next question. It's already been established.
And when you were meeting with Investigator Olmsted, you told him that you were driving the streets of Green Bay and you were doing everything you possibly could to find Nikki.
At what point?
When you met with Investigator Olmsted, you told him that you were looking and you were trying to find Nikki when you were driving from the watering hole to the sardine can.
I mean, we drove up and down some roads looking in an area that we thought she could be walking in. I believed at that time, yes.
And you did as much as you could to try to find Nikki on that night.
I mean, obviously, if we'd have known what was going to happen, we'd have scoured the city, but unfortunately, in hindsight, we did not.
So you even have some regret that you, to this day, wish you would have done more.
Yes.
And that's because Nikki was a good friend, a loving mother, and you cared about her.
Yeah, she was a great person.
And like we said earlier, you guys shared similar interests. Nikki understood you, you understood Nikki. She understood the things you were interested in, even when some of your other friends didn't. You cared about Nikki, right?
Yes.
And then when you were meeting with Investigator Olmsted, you told him you wanted to get, you wanted to tell him about what you'd been thinking about, and you told him that you truly believed that Nikki loved you,
As a friend, yes.
and you loved Nikki.
As a friend, yes.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Thank you. Sir, at some point, I think your voice dropped a little bit when you were answering
Sorry.
some questions. And it's hard, it's a bigger courtroom. At one point, you indicated that while you were in touch with Nikki, you responded that you were both in calm moods. Is that correct, meaning you and Doug?
Yeah, I mean, Doug was intoxicated, but he was just fun and jovial, about everything at that point.
And you were indicating that you were in contact with her, and she was being told, we'll be there, just stay put. And that was during this time period when you responded on cross, that you and Doug were both in calm moods at that point.
Yes.
And in fact, then I couldn't quite hear you. I heard you say the words, I believe, that he was not upset or angry, or did you say he was upset or angry at that point?
I do not believe that Doug was upset or angry. I mean, maybe upset is the wrong word, but he was not angry. He was not yelling. He was, more in a joking manner of why she's doing this. Like, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Why is she acting like this?
And when you were cross-examined with using the word mad when you spoke to the officers.
Yes.
Did you mean that as far as being angry or irritated with what was going on and the fact he couldn't find her?
I mean, he had said to me, I'm mad that she's acting stupid. I mean, what is she doing? I didn't, that is just a term that he used when he said it to me.
Did he seem angry when he said it?
No, he did not seem angry.
You were asked with respect to some of your conversations about, there was one time when Doug could have been perceived as, quote, a drunken asshole. Is that the same occasion when he actually got punched in the face?
Objection, relevancy.
Relevancy, Attorney Kerrigan-Mears.
This was the question that was brought up by the defense with respect to him being perceived in a certain fashion. We need to know the circumstances involved. It's certainly brought up on cross, and it's fair to us to go back into it and get to the whole picture that was taking place.
Limitation, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Is that the same occasion that you told the officer about that, in fact, Doug actually got punched in the face?
I believe that I told the officer that on a few occasions, Doug had been punched and never responded.
So he didn't physically respond after being...
No.
I'm sorry, if I could just finish.
Sorry.
He would get punched in the face and he didn't become physically aggressive?
No, I've never seen Doug be physically aggressive.
And he didn't punch back?
No.
When you were viewing him, is that correct?
Yes.
You were more specific with respect to the couple of times you did seem to see them have a dispute, is that correct? Meaning Nikki and Doug, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And one of those you indicated was involving a Packer game,
Yes.
and the other one was at a reception,
It was at a wedding.
at the wedding. On either of those occasions, was Nikki drinking?
The wedding, she was not. She was pregnant
Okay.
at that time. At the Packer game, she was, yes. Or at the bar. We were at the Ravine.
So whatever the dispute was about, she ended up walking off, is that correct?
I believe so. I was not there when they had their dispute. They were both having a fun time when I dropped them off at the Bar East that night.
You indicated after one of these disputes that you learned about, you ended up back at their residence with them?
Yeah, I stopped over there after I left Dustin and Christina Clark's house.
And after this time that you'd heard she walked off, you indicated everything was fine at that point?
Objection asked and answered. This is just repeating testimony at this point,
It's repeating the testimony that was brought up on cross.
and it's just repeating it.
Well, be cognizant of the jury. They've heard everything. They've been attentive, but it was brought up on cross, so I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you indicated they were both fine later, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we were laughing about it. She was telling us she's tough. She's from Denmark. She can walk 5 miles in 30 below weather while her jacket's in my car. And we're telling her there's no way, but
Now, on neither of these occasions was Nikki killed, is that correct?
no.
So when you were dealing with the police, when she'd walked off under these circumstances, as this began, did it ever enter your mind that she could have been kidnapped or killed or had some horrible thing happen?
I mean, I never thought that anything like this could ever happen.
Thank you. No further questions.
Recross.
So I want to focus on the argument that you are aware of between Doug and Nikki at the wedding. You said that Nikki was sober at that time?
She was pregnant, yes, so she was sober.
And they still got in a disagreement?
I said I was not party to seeing them get into the disagreement, that I had just heard that she walked back to the hotel that they were staying at.
But you were aware that they still argued that night?
Yes, I believe that she was upset and she walked back to the hotel.
Was Doug drunk that night?
Yes.
And then you also testified that there was multiple times that Doug has gotten so drunk and been so obnoxious that he's been punched in the face multiple times.
I believe so, yes. I mean, I believe on multiple occasions
How
that
many
I've heard of. I don't know that I was ever witness to, but one night in particular I was there, but I don't believe that I saw it. I just heard the next day that he got punched in the face. There was another time, I mean, this is over 20 years of our lives, But yeah, I've never seen him attack anybody. I've never seen him retaliate against anybody. And there was an occasion in his parents' front yard where a guy punched him and he did absolutely nothing.
And then going to the phone call that Doug had with Nikki when you took the phone from him, you said that Doug was almost joking around. He was jovial at that point in time.
You're saying, why is she acting like this? Why is she acting stupid?
And then you tried to talk to her.
Yeah.
I have nothing further.
Any last redirect?
No, thank you very much. I'd ask the witness be allowed to be excused.
The witness is excused. Greg, you may step down. State's next witness.
State's next witness is Mr. Detrie, who I expect to be lengthy. Does the court want us to start with him?
Let's ask the jury, ladies and gentlemen, would you rather start your lunch at 12 and go till 1:15, or would you rather start at 11:30 and go till 1:45? All right, let's call Mr. Detrie, and we'll go until 12 o'clock.
Before Mr. Detrie takes his time, could the
Yeah.
parties approach?
Sure, go right ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a legal issue that we'll be working on over the noon hour, but for now, we can continue to begin testimony of Mr. Detrie.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name.
Douglas R. Detrie, D-E-T-R-I-E.
Thank you.
Mr. Detrie, you may be seated. Attorney Lassay, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Detrie, how old are you?
I'm 36.
And where do you live?
What was that?
Where do you live?
Ledgeview?
Are you from this area originally?
Yes, I am.
Were you born in this area?
I was born in Green Bay.
Did you go to school in this area?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Dan's Elementary School, and then Edison Middle School, and Preble High School.
Did you graduate from Preble?
What's that?
Did you graduate from Preble?
Yes, I did.
And what year?
2000.
Do you have any education after high school?
Some college, some technical college, and took some various courses online.
What do you do for a living?
I work for a family business and self-employed as well, doing general contracting, building homes. Did apartment rental management for a lot of years as well.
What business do you work for?
Detrie Builders.
Can you tell us a little bit about that business?
Well, my grandpa actually started the business in 1955, and my dad was always working with him since I think he was 18, and eventually took over the business and worked with them continually since. I think I started working on job sites and stuff like that, and when I was in high school around 1990, the late 1990s when I was still in high school.
You said you do that, but you're also self-employed?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the self-employment?
I have a corporation. I just primarily do work through my family's company and work down in Florida as well, where I'm a certified building contractor.
Okay. Do you have any other licenses or certifications?
I also have a licensed dwelling contractor in Wisconsin that I've had about 6 years or so.
Can you tell us about your family?
My mother, my father, my amazing little son Dylan, and a grandfather on my dad's side, and that's the immediate family and then my brother and his wife and their little one.
You talked about having a son, Dylan. Who's Dylan's mother?
Nicole.
And what's Nicole's full name?
Nicole Vanderheiden.
What did she go by?
Nikki.
Is that what you called her?
Yep, always called her Nikki.
When did you meet Nikki?
I met her at Jimmy C's in January. I think it was 2015, or early mid-January.
What was the occasion?
I was just out with a few friends at Jimmy C's and just having some drinks, and I think it was a night or two before. It was like a playoff weekend for NFL football, and I don't know, there was a band playing, and Nikki came up to me, and we had a drink, and we hit it off right away, and just it went from there, and just ended up talking for an hour or so, and everything went well.
So then after that, did you start dating shortly thereafter?
Yeah, pretty much from that night on, we weren't really separated much at all.
Pretty close after that?
Very close, yep.
Okay. Shortly after that, did Nikki become pregnant?
Yeah, say, I don't know if it was like a month or so after that.
And at some point in time, did Nikki move in with you?
Yes, she did. I think it was late summer, early fall that year. I think around September, October-ish, or maybe even a little earlier. I do remember it being warm out when we were moving her stuff from her nearby apartment.
Are you aware whether Nikki had children from another relationship?
Yes, Tyler and Michaela. She had two children with her ex-husband, Brian.
How old are her other children?
They were 9 and 10 at the time. I believe they're 12 and 11 now.
And when Nikki came to move in with you, did the kids move in as well?
Yes, they did.
What was the custody arrangement, if you recall?
I don't know if there's any formal custody arrangement. They're on pretty good terms that the kids would usually be with us during the week, and it kind of varied a little bit if it was during the summer or during school. If it was during school time, they would be with us during the week, and then Brian would take the kids on the weekend, and then we'd pick them back up on Monday after school.
And you mentioned that relationship, at least from what you observed, was on pretty good terms?
Yeah, from what I observed, yep, they're on good terms.
Did you know Brian very well?
Not very well at all, no.
I assume that you had plenty of opportunity to observe Nikki as a mother?
Yes.
And how was she with Dylan and her other kids?
She was a very good mother. That's one part I liked a lot about her, was just how caring, and she did everything that the kids needed and taught them well. Her being a teacher, was always about education and health, and
So you knew that Nikki was a teacher?
yes.
In the time period that she lived with you, was she working much as a teacher?
Early when she was pregnant, and that spring when I had just met her, she was working quite a bit then. And then as fall, when she was later in the pregnancy, the working slowed down a little bit, and then, took time to rest and prepare for Dylan's birth.
When was Dylan born?
October 29th of 2015.
And Nikki had been living with you prior to Dylan's birth?
Yes.
You think it was sometime that?
It was a
summer?
couple of months prior to Dylan being born.
And again, prior to Dylan being born, Nikki and her children had moved in with you?
Yes.
And Nikki did not work much that following school year after Dylan's birth?
Yeah, not much. She did take a few days, I don't recall when, that she'd take some substitute daily jobs, and a little bit after, I think it was probably 2 or so months after he was born, that she was feeling better and starting to get back to work a little bit.
How would you describe your relationship with Nikki?
It was very, very good for a lot of it. We did have, little arguments here and there, but for the most part, it was a good relationship, and always had plans for future and everything like that, and I would say good overall.
Okay, what were those plans?
Well, raising Tyler, Michaela, and Dylan, and living together, and raising the family and being a part of the family. And we did have plans to, we had talked about marriage and everything like that, but we had said with Dylan being born, and didn't want to rush things prior to him being born. And I don't know, it was just, a lot to process, so we just took our time and said we were going to wait to talk about that once he was a little older. So, and we had talked that when he was old enough to kind of maybe walk down the aisle, that would be a possibility of when we go to that step. But
Dylan is your first child?
yes.
So was being a father, that's a new experience for you?
Yes, it was.
How well were you adjusting to that lifestyle?
It was, it was tough, but it was great. There was, mixed feelings, and like just adapting. It was kind of on a daily basis, new things every day, and changing diapers and all that. And it was great overall, though,
And Dylan still lives with you?
Yes, he does.
How old is Dylan now?
He's 2, a little over 2.
Doug, I'm going to move the discussion to the evening of May 20th of 2016. Do you recall that evening?
Yes, I do.
What was the plan for that night, if you recall?
At some point, we had I forget how it was brought up, but we talked about going to this concert and going out that night and having a good time. And I said, okay, we'll try and get some tickets. And I went down to my office, finish up a few things, and I looked for some tickets online, and I wasn't able to actually get tickets online. So I think it was within like an hour or so of the show actually starting. Then I had talked to, I believe, or Greg or Aaron, and they said you'd be able to get tickets at the show. So then I went home, got ready. Nikki's mom, Victoria, came over and was going to watch Dylan for the first part of the evening, and then Dallas was going to come over and take over for her once it got a little later.
So this was not something that you and Nikki had necessarily planned for a long time?
No, it was a few hours before we left, actually, that we were just, okay, let's go. And
Were you aware that several of your friends were interested in attending?
yep,
And so you indicated that Nikki's mom, Victoria, was babysitting for Dylan. About what time did you guys leave the residence?
I think it was 7:30-ish approximately.
You recall where you went on the way to the concert?
I remember we left and we went and stopped at McDonald's because neither of us had eaten, and got some drive-through, and pretty much ate in the car as we were going to the show because it had already started, the opening bands or whatever that were performing. Got there, I think probably around 8 o'clock or so. We parked and went into the show.
And the concert was at the watering hole?
The watering hole or sandlot or whatever it's called.
When you arrived, did you meet your friends there?
Yes, after a little while, there was a lot of people there and had to go through the line to get the tickets to get into the building, and then to get a drink, we had to get wristbands, there was a long line for that. So probably within 15 minutes or so, I don't know who we met up with first, but we ran into Greg and Aaron and Crystal and a few other people that were there.
Can you run through a list of the other people that you met there?
There was Sean Gohagan, Mike Kalepsy, Jesse Kotler, or Baraka Sean, I believe her name is now, and let's see who. That was kind of, there was a group, and we finally, because there was a big crowd, and we went up on the right-hand side where they were kind of had their little location set up there. So that was kind of our meeting point to go. We left to get do beer or grab a drink and go back there.
What was the atmosphere like at the watering hole?
I don't know, kind of loud, crowded. I know at one point before that Steel Panther band played, the singer or whatever, that I was not very familiar with the band itself. But he was right by us and taking pictures, and I didn't even know he was right next to me, and you know, it was just I don't know, it was just kind of a rock concert type atmosphere.
Is everyone having fun?
Yeah, everybody was having fun, and
Were you drinking that night?
yes, I was.
Was Nikki drinking that night?
Yep.
When you guys were together during the concert, how were you getting along?
Very well. Everything was going good. I remember leaving to get her, I think, another beer, or I think she had some ginger ale or cider beer or whatever. I got her at the beer stand. And, you know, we were long lines with that. You know, it took like 5-10 minutes for each little trip, and working through the shuffle of people, but
Were the two of you fighting at all at the watering hole?
no, we were not.
Did you see any of the other people in your group fighting or arguing?
No, I didn't see any. No, there's no fighting going on.
While you were at the watering hole, did you run into any other people that you knew?
Oh, yeah, there's a few other people that I knew. I ran into, actually, right after we had gotten our wristband, we ran into, an acquaintance that I'd known that works at the Greystone Ale House, which is close to my house. I ran into him and, you know, kind of introduced Nikki to him and had a short talk with him. I didn't know him that well, you know, and just said, hey, have fun at the show. And
Were you with Nikki during most of the show?
most of the show, yep. And I think it was before or after the one band, Annex, had played. I think we caught the tail end of that, and then we were up at the actual bar where towards the front of the building, getting some drinks, and then Nikki had ran into a few of her friends and introduced me that I hadn't met before, and had a brief little chit chat, and they talked about whatever, and, how are things going, talked about Dylan and I guess just life in general real quickly, and
then
had a
dur-
drink, and
And then during the while Steel Panther was playing, were you with Nikki during most of that time as well?
yep.
At some point, did you split up with Nikki at the watering hole that night?
Do you mean during the
Sure,
show?
during the show.
I think I went one time to the bathroom. I think we both did. And not exactly sure when it was, but sometime during the show, went to the bathroom and grabbed another drink, and then came back and watched the rest of the show.
And when you came back from the bathroom getting a drink and watched the rest of the show, did you come back to meet with Nikki again?
Yeah, and the whole group, it was crowded, shoulder to shoulder type deal, and
Were most of your friends that you were there with around and together in the same group during the show?
yeah, in the same general location.
Describe what happened when the show ended.
It was kind of, the rush of people out, and guess I don't really remember if I went to the bathroom or went back to the front bar and got another drink. And let's see, I know at some point we had ran into another group of Nikki's friends. I think it was Nicole, another Nikki, and we were talking about another Nikki, because that was actually the second Nikki that she had introduced me to that night. And it's all Nikki's, and I think they're with their husband or significant other and some friends.
After talking with and meeting Nikki's friends, at some point did you and Nikki get separated after the show?
Yeah, after we had met with that group at the bar, we had a shot. I think I bought a round of shots for them, and the four, I'm gonna guess 4 people I were with them, so like 6 total. Said I was gonna go to the bathroom. Nikki was gonna go to the bathroom, and waited in a long line at the bar up at the front. I'm not sure where the ladies' restroom was. And after that, it was probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I was in the bathroom. We're waiting in line for the bathroom, and went back outside, and you had to go through and had your wristbands checked, and there was the line for that. And then there's a center room and there was like a outdoor deck balcony, and I think I ran into Greg and Katie, and then I was out there.
At the point in time that you ran into Greg and Katie, were you with Nikki at that time?
No, I was not.
So you had separated to go to the bathroom,
Yep.
and did you make your way back together with Nikki before you left the watering hole?
No. I was looking around where Nikki was. There's a lot of people, moving, and I didn't see her at all.
Can you estimate about how many drinks you had while you were at the watering hole?
I don't know, 6 to 10, including shots. I don't know, something around that.
You were drinking fairly regularly through the night?
Yeah.
Do you recall, at least up until the time that you separated, was Nikki drinking fairly regularly as well?
Yep.
Have you had drinks with Nikki in the past?
Yes, I have.
Was she a frequent drinker?
No, she wasn't. It was more when we had first met. We went out quite often, on the weekends, and then when she was pregnant, she didn't drink at all, and we'd still go out, and she would drive and be the designated driver, and go out and meet up with various friends and have a good time, and she would drive and get us home. But then afterwards, I think she probably only drank a handful of times at most since Dylan was born.
Okay, so that's what you meant by afterwards. So since Dylan was born, she was an infrequent drinker?
Yeah.
Do you know if what was the pace she was drinking that night?
Pretty quickly. I mean, I remember on the first I think beer or two. We got, I think it was in plastic cups, and I think she had like 2 down, and I was still on my first one. And thought I was drinking it kind of fast, and she was chugging them down pretty.
And you were drinking at a pretty fair pace yourself.
Yes.
After you got separated from Nikki, you mentioned some shots. Were you taking shots at the watering hole?
Yeah, I had numerous shots. I mean, like probably a good handful of shots.
And you met up with some friends of yours, you and Greg.
Yep.
Specifically, you mentioned to Katie. Who was that?
It was Katie Hanna at the time. She was actually, at the time, she was married to I think the singer of Annex that was the opening band.
And you and Greg were talking to her together?
Yep.
How do you know Katie?
I've known Katie since high school as kind of a mutual friend of friends, and didn't know her that well, but knew her, decently well.
Did Greg know her well?
Yep.
And Nikki was not with you during that conversation?
No.
Do you know where Nikki was?
I did not know where Nikki was. I figured she was somewhere, and had found, people were kind of in different groups everywhere, and I, thought she was, talking with whoever, and I was out there for 5-10 minutes or so.
Now, you say 5-10 minutes. Is it possible that it could have been longer than
It
that?
could have been longer that we were outside, yeah. So I know Greg was talking, I don't even know what Greg was talking about, but he'd go on and on and on, and
Sure. So, yeah, Greg has a nickname, doesn't he?
yes.
What is it?
Yeah, Chatty Cathy,
Okay. Greg likes to talk?
yes.
All right. And in general, when you're drinking, how good are you at maintaining time?
I'd say, not that well, I guess. Decent on approximations, but maybe really not. Time probably goes by a lot faster than I'm thinking it is.
And when you were at the watering hole, you were with Greg, you were with friends, were you having a good time?
Yes. Yeah, everybody was having a good time, but, out having a good time.
While you were at the watering hole, even though Nikki wasn't with you, were you concerned about her at the watering hole?
No, I wasn't, because at some point, I remember getting, I think I either tried to call her or she called me, and that she was with some of my friends, and like Crystal, and I think Mike and Angela, and she said she was in their car, whoever was driving, and they're going to go to another bar, and I'm not sure if she told me then that there was a sardine can or not.
Was there a plan that your group of friends was going to go to another bar from the watering hole?
Yeah, that we were all going to go and meet up at the same place, wherever that would be.
So you became aware that Nikki had left the watering hole and went with your friends?
Yep. At some point after being outside with, I think the first time that I was outside with Greg and Katie talking. So I think we were maybe out there 2 or 3 times, I think.
And when Nikki was with your friends, were you concerned about her?
No, they were with friends that I've known for a long time and trusted, and okay, I'll go meet up with her when I get there. And
Now, these are friends that you've known for a while. Did Nikki know them very well?
she knew Aaron and Crystal. Somewhat. And she had knew that they're good people and trusted them. So, and they're out going out to have a good time.
Attorney Lassay, I think this will be time for our lunch break. So we'll break for lunch. Attorney, stay around once the jury is excused. Mr. Detrie, you can step down. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a legal issue we have to address, so I'm going to ask you to be back here by 1:30. I'm hoping at 1:30 we can go back on the record and continue testimony, all right? Have a good lunch.
All right.